The Constitution of Uganda under Article 17.1 places the duty on all citizens to combat corruption and fight back against misuse of public property and funds. It also gives us an avenue to hold our leaders accountable. Against this background, advocacy and activism comes to life to all of us. And today I'm privileged to host Chris Atukwasize, also known as Chris Ogon, a cartoonist who uses cartoons and satire to ridicule the follies of society and advocate for change. Welcome to the Hard Questions. I'm Solomon Serwanja. Chris, thank you so much for joining us today.
A pleasure, my brother. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for the good work you guys are doing.
Great. Just for all our audience, Chris will be launching his book, Drawing Attention. I cannot wait to take this copy, of course. This book will be out on the 2nd of August across all different bookshops, and you can as well contact him for a copy. Amazing, great work that he has been doing over a couple of years to, advance his journalism career through cartoons. Chris, yours is the same work that I do, but you do it in style, and that is using cartoons. I must admit that I'm a big fan of yours. So, firstly, tell us about this book, Drawing Attention.
Ogon Drawing Attention is a compilation of some of my past works, because I've done so many cartoons over the years, but I thought maybe I should compile a few of my works that stand out for the record, really, for the record.
Okay, great. So it's just you picked your favorites, put them into a book.
Yeah, I would say my favorites, but of course I don't have a favorite. Every cartoon that I draw of mine is a favorite.
Yeah, don't we all love you? I mean, every day I look forward to your cartoons that you draw. There's some that make me laugh. There's some that make me, feel sad. But ultimately, you are communicating. And your style of journalism is rather different. So let's talk about using the genre of using cartoons and satire in journalism. Where is the place of satire in journalism?
I would say our role has lately come into prominence. I don't know, maybe because of the social media, because growing up we have had editorial cartoonists over the years, here and abroad, and over centuries ago we had editorial cartoonists. But I think in Uganda in particular, the role of editorial cartoonists more especially has become so prominent with the advent of I don't know if I can call it the emergence of social media. So in a way, our works have gotten recognized in a more broader way. And sure, when we do something critical art, I would call it critical art, it really gets attention from the public, and something which I'm very glad to do.
Indeed, it's critical art because you have used cartoons to push back against human rights violations. I remember the cartoon that you drew for Kakwenza at the time, quite telling. You have pushed back against oppression of people in power. You have pushed back against the use of the military. You've been at the front line, and you've used your skill and your genre of journalism and critical cartoons to really make your point heard. What inspires you?
I like what you call it, the front line, the visual front line. The other day I was talking to Bobby Wine, and he referred to some of us as pen soldiers. So I would say, to begin with, I'm an artist. I'm trained as an artist. Then my love for journalism, I found my way into the newsroom, first with Kampala Sun, then with the Daily Monitor. But of course, not everyone is going to be a street activist. So in a way, I feel I'm very comfortable highlighting whatever I want to highlight using the means that I understand best, which is editorial cartooning. So I would call it my comfort zone. To say that I'm inspired by, I may not be an activist in the sense of activism, but like everyone, really, I want to see the place that I live in, the society that I live in a good place, and there are things I also want to see. I want to highlight, to call on the ills in society using the means that I understand best, which is editorial cartooning. So Largely, I'm inspired by the need to see the good in society.
You called it your safe space
Yeah,
and
it is.
comfortable space
Yeah.
where you feel you can express yourself deeply. Take us through the process of drawing this cartoon, right from conceptualization. How does it manifest? What's the process like?
The process, I've met people actually who think it's, some people call it bukatuni. So, in a way, people think it's simple and they expect simple art, just draw stickmen and. But I really take editorial cartooning serious in that there's a lot of work that goes into what I do behind the scenes because when something happens, I read a story, I understand it, I brainstorm. After brainstorming, I draw. I have sketchbooks at home. I put what I'm thinking, the thought process. I put everything on paper, and thereafter think about an image, sketch it. I prefer the traditional pen and ink because I feel, in a way, even with the emergency of new media like tablets and whatever, I'm still comfortable with the pencil and pen because it's a little bit more expressive compared to new media. So after sketching, I ink using pen. Then after that, I scan and put into computer to put some color to give the work vibrancy and make it attractive, to attract the reader, really. That's why you see most of my works are, they're rich in color.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically in short, that's the process.
And you use different scenarios. There's a lot of creativity that goes in there, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that one is guided by, maybe by training, because by training I'm an artist. I majored in illustration at university. I did industrial and fine arts at Makerere, majored in illustration art. So in a way, I would say I fairly know what when I'm drawing. I have an idea. I don't gamble when it comes to editorial cartooning. I have a fair knowledge of what I do. Only that I got a little bit challenged when I joined the journalism space because I didn't have training in journalism. But over the years, most of the things really, the ethics I don't have training up to now in journalism, but I think I know uh, fairly what I'm supposed to do, and guided, of course, by my editors, by my fellow reporters at Daily Monitor. So it becomes very easy for me to, not very easy, but I don't get as challenged doing the job that I do.
What are the essentials for you as a cartoonist when you draw a cartoon? What goes through your mind when you're drawing that cartoon? Because it in itself, you're trying to communicate. What goes into your mind when you're doing these cartoons?
Every stroke of mine, every stroke that I put in my cartoons has a message, really. And if you've been keen, and I know most readers usually find out, most of my cartoons are detailed because I don't want the reader to look at the cartoon and then just leave. I give it some context, and the context that I put in my cartoons is usually in the details, because I wouldn't say I'm very much of a humorist. I prefer to draw maybe a little bit conceptual or cerebral art. Basically, majorly that's it.
So firstly, the message has to be clear, and the person who is looking at that cartoon must be able to interpret exactly what you want them to.
Not must be able to interpret. I think when I put art out there, rarely do I care about the interpretation of the reader, because interpretations are going to vary depending on people's beliefs and whatever. Some people are so attached to their beliefs that they will look at an artwork and straight away be make a conclusion. But usually I want, when someone looks at my cartoon, looks at it again, then maybe, I just hope, it's my intention when I'm drawing that the reader gets to understand what I do, but I'm not really bothered that much when someone misinterprets what I do. Yeah, because in the several, it's up to the interpretation of or misinterpretation of the same is really up to the reader.
And sometimes, some of us who look at the cartoons that you draw, we interpret them. Sometimes they have a very deep sense of meaning, and we're thinking, okay, Chris, you've always seen these tweets. Chris has done it again. Or Chris, sometimes I think you do sometimes you do some risky cartoons that sometimes I'm thinking, okay, is my guy safe this time? And you called it your safe space.
Yeah.
But also your space where you want to, put out the social evil. Sometimes you really do something, it's a clear, direct message to the people you're sending it to. And I'm thinking, okay, is Chris safe with this? Do you sometimes get scared when you put out these cartoons?
Certainly, I'm human like every other person. But in what I do, I try not to be attached to the work that I do. I also have things I want to see take place, but I try to block out biases and all these things that are going to affect the output that I want to put out there. So me detaching myself from the work, and even when I draw cartoons, you realize that even when people under the comment section try to get me talking about the artwork, I would rather let people go at it by themselves. Make your own interpretation. Very many people, when I draw something, maybe they are not understanding. They try to tag me and ask me, "What did you mean here?" But I really don't. I don't give it too much attention. I care for feedback, but not so much to affect what I'm going to do next. Like the cartoon I'm going to do next will not be influenced by the noise or out there. Yeah, so why I call it my safe space is I don't want to be part of the work. If I've put the artwork there, my personality or character, I don't want the infusion of myself with what I do. So
That's a very thin line there.
it is very thin, but so far I think I've successfully managed it.
Yeah.
I don't know what you think, but I think I've tried. I don't want to be part of what I do because this this kind of activism is not. I'm not comfortable now defending my work or using my work to, even when sometimes it's not avoidable. You can't avoid it, but I try as much as I can not to be my character or personality, not to be part of the craft.
Have you ever received those threatening calls?
Very many. Sometimes not to me, to my editors. Maybe some of them I may not be comfortable telling you where the calls are coming from, but there are people who call in to threaten. They are telling your editors to speak to your boy. Some people think I'm hired to lampoon or malign their names, which is far from the truth. So, but maybe not so much, really. Not so much. But I get people who call me, people who are concerned, family members, friends. Actually, most of the calls that I get are from friends and family who think maybe this is a bit too far and maybe you should care for your safety or whatever. But most of the calls that have come in to intimidate and harass, and they go through my editors, and I have a a good team of editors who really most times shield me from these people.
No, the reason I'm saying is because we've seen different leaders saying, "Oh, you draw me in cartoons," you know.
But Solomon, you'll be shocked. Actually, and I will say this, most of the props, like the people who encourage me inbox, you'd be shocked at if I told you the people who come in my inbox to encourage me. People in government, people who are high up there, they come and say, for some reason we can't associate ourselves with you or what you do, but we really love your craft. You communicate, you're speaking to us, you're speaking to these people. Sometimes when you're sharing a person maybe who has been, some people will come inbox and they'll send you a message and say, yeah, and you'll be shocked at who actually encourages us to move on. So I wouldn't say it's my motivation. I think everyone loves appreciation, but I'm not motivated by it. But in some way, when you know there are people high up there who appreciate what you do, not to bias you, not to protect themselves from criticism when that time comes for you to go for them, but a lot of the people actually in government, really, I would say, are interested and like what I and other cartoonists do.
Yeah.
Because I've shared with some cartoonists and it's the same thing they tell me.
Yeah.
So talk to me and they were encouraging me. And
the reason why I'm saying that is because there's times when you draw cartoons, I'm thinking, okay, Chris has touched the untouchables in society.
Yeah.
Some people who we even fear to talk about. And I'm thinking, okay, how do you even do it?
No,
Tell us what was behind this cartoon, for
I'm
example.
not going to fake being brave or whatever. I also get, I get, everyone is concerned about their safety, but yeah, the encouragement from people, and I didn't start this because I wanted maybe people to praise me or anything, so it's what keeps me going.
One of the cartoons that caught my eye in this book is this one.
Yeah.
And I love how you put it. You call it Operation Wealth Creation.
Yeah.
Not necessarily operation, but it's operations. And you draw a cartoon that resembles someone I know.
Who is that? Because I don't know that person.
And maybe let's speak about that. Sometimes, and perhaps that's the safe space that you're talking about.
Yeah.
You know, you draw someone like this, but no one can come and say that this is the real
person. And I
person.
think in a way that's the little protection that we have, because if they wanted to bump you off, they can. But if one wants to harass you, especially using
the
quotes
legal
and
means.
whatever,
Yeah.
It's going to be very hard for them, because
I mean, what's your defense? Because someone will say...
You're not going to... someone will say?
Someone will say, but this person looks like me.
Like who? I don't know the person you're talking about, but that one was about artists and... You must relate.
Yeah, I remember the operation worth creation. It's just fascinating. And that in itself, I think I spoke to cartoonist Jimmy Spire, and he was telling me that space of satire, that place of cartoons, doing cartoons creates this safe space where we can communicate, and no one will say, I'm going to court because you know, is that you in? Because I was asking, okay, can you present evidence that this is you?
It is actually the case, and that's the bit of protection that maybe we still have, because even when someone wants to come for you, and I don't think there is any person... I was talking to a friend recently, and he was telling me that people who target you are people who are not confident about themselves. They think they can use control because they are trying to cover up for something that they don't have. They don't have that confidence. So when you attack them using, they will feel small and want to show you there. But I don't think... it's possible, but I don't think surely someone would be that mad to come and maybe they can cause you, you can get unemployed, you can get sacked from the job, you can, using their influence, but I don't think one would take us on using the legal means. You would have to, anyway, very many people, wherever it has happened elsewhere, South Africa, Kenya, usually the artist comes out on top because, especially cartoonists, whoever has gone to court has failed so far to prove that they were defamed, because they will ask you to prove that you're the person in the cartoon.
Yeah.
And that's why in most of my works, you realize that I try to get the character, the facial expression and everything, because I don't want, in a way, I'm trying to insulate myself from any, because if I named it, if I drew a cartoon and maybe someone about Solomon and Solomon thinks it's derogatory or I'm defaming him and I've put Solomon Seranja, you will have a case against me. But if there is no name, if the interpretation is up to you, if the shoe fits,
then you're the one.
Yeah.
It depends on how you look at
Yeah.
it. Chris, let's talk about your book for a second. It comes in different chapters. Yes. And there's a chapter called In 1986. There's a chapter called Democracy. There is Such a Mess. There's It's on You. There's Off Position, Jump That Queue, Foreign Policy, 256, then Good Evening, then Impunity Uganda, then there's Uganda Zabu.
Yeah.
It's just fascinating. Yeah. So in chapter 1, which is 1986, what did you try to portray?
You realize before every chapter, there's a preface. So in that preface, I've written about the summary of, because you imagine readers, you're not only going to get readers who are in Uganda or who can relate with what's happening, because most of the cartoons in that book are about the politics of this country, the Ugandan society. But I provided a preface to guide someone, to give a picture to, not a picture, to lead someone to like a summary of whatever is in that chapter is in that preface.
And just so you know, this is the first cartoon picture of 1986. This particular one is interesting, and it reads, "So help me God." And in this image, you can interpret it for yourself. Like Chris said, it's up to us to interpret the messaging. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't like to really speak to you about what you are meaning. You said the interpretation is ours.
Yeah, surely.
And then there is the 10-point program and how it looks like.
Yeah. Right, what do you read in the
right now? The 10-point program and what the 10 programs look like, you know. All right, Chris. So in these different chapters, each chapter speaks to something.
Yeah.
What does chapter 2 speak of? It speaks about democracy.
Yeah, democracy. See, the democracy space in this country, really, I don't think there's anyone foreign to what happens here, and largely, not only here, in Africa, Africa's democracy case is really, in most countries, a basket one. It's a mess, really. So that chapter highlights the democracy, the so-called democracy. Some cartoonists called it Zapiro. Zapiro is the South African cartoonist. Actually, he's one of my biggest inspirations. Called it democracy. So I think it's the case across the continent, really. That democracy here is a farce. So it's in that chapter, it's basically what I'm trying to illustrate, the fakeness, the emptiness of the so-called democracy in this country.
And like you predicted on page 14, in this cartoon, which speaks about the iPod, the president had, well, I don't know if it's the president according to Chris, but
No,
At
it is.
least,
It is. Some of
yeah.
these guys have drawn them over the years, and in the paper, in the newspaper, there's always a caption. For some reason, I don't know why Monitor accepted to use the, because I think the the cartoon is supposed to jog the mind of the reader. So when you give a caption, uh, you're giving away easily. You're giving away
The messaging.
the message in the cartoon. So, but when you call him the president, I think he's recognizable.
Yeah.
Anyone
And it looks like here he had Norbert Mao and
yeah, that's
Jimmy
Robert
Akena,
Mao, Jimmy
who right now
Akena,
are
a part of him.
a
And
part of him. I think
that's one thing that there's very little that to satisfy a visual artist in Uganda or in Africa, and more so a cartoonist. But where I derive my satisfaction is from moments like this. For some reason, you foretell an event. So you draw about something, because usually as a cartoon, a cartoon is not like a picture that Solomon has done this, then you go and draw it. You're supposed to draw something that is beyond a picture, your interpretation, and that's why I think ours are opinions. It's my opinion, but I really get happy when something has happened and maybe I had highlighted it in a previous cartoon of mine, and that's what happens in most cases. Anyway, not because we are so special. Sometimes it's very easy to predict what will happen in this country, or especially concerning our democracy. We are not going to. Very rarely are we going to find strange or new things. So probably you can predict what is going to happen 2 or 3 years from now. Yeah. So that topic is about the emptiness of our democracy. Yeah, it's a farce.
I'll not give away a lot in this book. It will be up in the stores on the 2nd of August, so you can grab yourself a copy and look at Ogon drawing attention. Fascinating cartoons in here, and his message is very clear. So you can go to all bookshops and bookstores and you get yourself a copy. But Chris, let's continue the conversation here.
Yeah, sure.
I wanted to draw your attention to critics that argue that you, to some extent, do not draw cartoons that speak about the good that the government has done. I mean, most of your cartoons portray a broken democracy, a broken system, human rights violations, everything going south. And yet there are people who say that Chris as well should be able to...
Solomon, it's not my role, and I don't think it's any cartoonist's role out there to highlight the positive things done by whoever it is, be it people in government or wherever, because these people are paid to do what they do. They're supposed to serve us. They're supposed to. So if they think they have done good, let them blow it. Let them blow it. I'll focus on what I think, and really a cartoon praising, a cartoon highlighting
showing President
achievements.
Museveni launching a big project, a big hospital.
A big project. No, there wouldn't be. I don't think. Not only President Museveni, actually. I don't have. Okay, I have things against the lead. Not just him as a person, but the leadership. I have the ability to wake up and draw things that don't make sense, attractive on the surface, aesthetically, but I think our art should have a purpose, and the purpose, I would think it's more purposeful to highlight a cause than what should I call it, than praise someone for doing what they're essentially supposed to do. Yeah. It's the government's role to
provide services.
Yeah, it's the bare minimum. They get money for that.
What you're saying is critical art is also, in a way, advocacy and activism.
Yep. Though I don't think I qualify to be called an activist, because I don't know. Maybe some of my colleagues they are cartoonists and they use their cartoons and their art to advance something. Myself, I prefer to to draw and put something out there and not be part of it. Not that it's the standard practice or whatever. Even when you said a few moments ago that it's not possible to detach myself from the work that I do, but I don't think I qualify to be called an activist. I would love to use my art to be an activist. They are called, I had someone call them activists.
Activists.
Yeah, but maybe I need to gather more courage to do that.
Do you feel that your work has been appreciated and it has had impact?
Only now. It's something I've realized now with this book, actually. The calls I'm getting from people, the people making pre-orders, I really had no idea that, and even some of the guys, the politicians that I've met, really, there people come and tell you, we love what you do. Previously, I didn't feel the impact really. But when I'm here, really, this is. I watch this program. I know how many people have been here, and I know their profiles, most of them. So, who am I to be someone here in this space to speak to the world? So maybe for some people think I think we are doing what we are supposed to do. But yeah, in a way, I feel appreciated. I'm not complaining really, but I don't do it for appreciation. This is something I do. This is something I love. Even if there was no money really, I would work, because when I started this thing out, I was just drawing my stuff, posting on Facebook, and then one day some artist calls me and some big artist calls me and says, "Hey, you see, Ogon, I love what you do." There's a guy I used to see, he's a big guy. I had just finished university and broke and whatever, not exposed, and but of course I didn't give much attention because I kept drawing, because even if he hadn't, like if I have food and clothing and the basics really, I would still wake up to draw, to look at it. It's my passion. It's something I love doing. It's something I do not for fun, but it's something I love doing. I'm so attached to the trade.
Yeah. Listen, all of us.
Basically, it's my life.
All of us are really excited about what you're giving.
It's not financially rewarding. I wish it was, but I'm not complaining really. It's something I want to. For the foreseeable future, really, I still want to wake up and draw.
How do we grow this into, I mean, it's already a big thing, critical art.
It is.
We've seen Rastoon do a great work. We've seen you, we've seen Spire.
All those guys.
And,
all those
some
guys.
big cartoonists. How do we create a movement of cartoonists? Okay, maybe to put it clear, what does the future look like for critical art in Uganda?
The future is bright, and let me use this opportunity to, in particular, of course, thank those guys who came before us, Nogi, Mr. Ras, the late Mose, may his soul rest in peace, but most importantly, Spire. Spire Sentongo, him having that background, being a professor and a respectable figure in society, doing that, for some reason, there is a way he's given our trade some respect and relevance, and so I'm sure there are very many people he's encouraged to take on this. Only that currently, the many young artists that I see, of course, I meet most of them. Most of them come to me, they want to, how do I do this? Their parents who come and say, how does my kid, I want my kid to be observant and to be a cartoonist and to be... But most of the guys that I meet, save for a few, guys like Sozi Bros and Cosmas and whoever, the rest of the guys are interested in money. They actually think we rake in money, really. They think we are in this. So a guy will come and tell you, how much will I get? How much is a cartoon? So you tell these guys, just get to your tablet or your pencil, whatever, and just do you. If you have, anyone can draw, by the way. Even if Solomon, you can draw. But probably you're not fashioned for drawing. It's something you do best, which is what you do currently. But I think with the prominence this kind of art has gotten, I'm very sure, I'm very certain in a few years to come, we are still few. I wish we were many, because the many we are, the more cartoonists we get in this country, I think society will get better. So I'm very sure there are guys who have been encouraged by what we do, at least from what they tell me and from what I see people telling other cartoonists. So I think, in a way, the future is bright. Is bright for not just editorial cartooning, but critical art. Yeah, not just drawing for the fun of it, but drawing with a purpose.
You've used the word critical art, maybe which is broader than just cartooning. What did you mean by critical art?
No, I think any cartoonist or illustrator or whatever, surely if you want to stand out, if you want your message to get to wherever you want to, I think your art should be critical. You should use your art to highlight something, a cause, or maybe advance, or maybe preach against something. So most of the work that I do, really, I have, that message is intended for someone out there. And in most cases, it will not be me praising that person. It will be me saying, look, man, you have to get your act right.
It's journalism.
It's up to you. It's journalism, visual.
Visual journalism.
Yeah. It's up to you to consider what I do or whatever. I was talking to Bobby Wine the other day, and he was telling me, yeah, man, even sometimes when you draw something and maybe I'm uncomfortable with it, just keep doing you. Because I try, Solomon, by all means. I have things that I want, but I try by all means not to be biased. I can't run away from it. I'm human, but I don't want my art to be influenced by any other person's beliefs or demands. I just do me. Yeah. I try to do me.
I would be happy if you presented this to President Museveni as well to get a copy.
I wouldn't mind.
Yeah.
Maybe it's, I wouldn't mind really. And my plan was to maybe present a copy to each of the political leaders. I've met a few.
Yeah.
Maybe if I manage to, why not?
Chris, I'm just here thinking about your legacy. I know it's too young to start talking about legacy, but yeah, what do you want the world to remember you for?
Remember me for? That's up to the world. Like I told you, I just wake up to do what I like. I just wake up to, like Solomon, I don't draw because someone has told me do this or whatever. I'm pushed by, I'm motivated by myself, and I think we live in a society where there's enough resource material. Our politicians who make fun of themselves every other day, our religious leaders, every other person really. So about my legacy, I don't think I wake up to draw thinking about my legacy really. But the little that I can do, if I can encourage a few guys, if I've inspired a few people, I would be glad. I would consider that an achievement. And
you've gone to places that many of us never thought that. There are places that all of us sometimes fear to go, one of which is religion. And in this cartoon, you clearly went up in arms against religious leaders.
Yeah, because really...
This is one of my favorites.
Thank you.
I think it was done on Janan Luwum and everything that happened with it.
Yeah. And it's one cartoon I think is timeless. It's one of my favorites as well. I told you I don't have a favorite cartoon, but I would say that one is one of my, because every other time, these guys have not changed. Our religious leaders still do the same thing. So when you have one that stands out, that did it against because I would imagine the times of Jan and Womb are not the times of today, but to a greater extent, most of our leaders, not just religious leaders, are a disappointment, really. So time and again, that cartoon comes up. People recycle it because it's in some way it's not bound by time. Yeah.
Wow.
I think it will be relevant it will still be relevant in 20 years to come.
Wow.
Especially now, when you look at our religious leaders receiving vehicles from government and a whole majority of them fearing to speak against the ills of society and the leadership
And you communicated. Look, Chris, my last question.
But I'm very glad that I can. You see, communicating is one of my course units at university was design communication. So when you communicate, sometimes I feel disappointed sometimes. I've drawn cartoons and maybe the reception is not what I expected. Like I expected people to easily understand something I'm trying to highlight. But the biggest satisfaction for any cartoonist, I guess, is when you do something, when you draw something, it generates debate. People are talking about it. Sometimes it's, I've seen some of my works used in exams at university. You go to someone's office. There's a place I've been to, and my cartoon was on the wall. And this person had no idea that I was the artist, and I just kept quiet. And so me finding it was, I felt satisfied that by the time someone cuts out a cartoon from the newspaper and pins it, you really have communicated to that person. So my satisfaction is in the reader getting to understand what I really wanted. It doesn't matter how they interpret it, but once they understand what I wanted to communicate, it makes me happy.
Wow.
Yeah, it makes me satisfied.
Wow.
Yeah, sure.
Where do we go from here?
From here, the next cartoon.
This cartoon really went viral.
Yeah.
This one.
For as long as this regime lasts, really, that cartoon is going to stay relevant. I think it, even up to now, I think it's still relevant.
People thought you were very unfair.
No. I thought actually the leader that time was reckless. And Solomon, my pencil, words of a leader, really, the tongue is something very, I can draw something and maybe you keep it on your phone, you're going to lose your phone and it gets lost if you're the only person with it. But Solomon, if someone tells you something, it's going to be very difficult or hard for you to forget about it, good or bad. So I don't think I was unfair.
You're unfair.
Yeah. Sometimes actually I hold back. You see the work that I do, I really hold back. And I think sometimes because of the society that we operate in and have grown in, that's the reason why I find myself, if I was to really go for some of the things wouldn't be palatable, really.
Chris, thank you. But I cannot go without asking you about this cartoon.
Which one?
This one. This one.
That one?
Particularly. This cartoon scares me.
Really?
And you communicated in your critical art.
I really
This
love
is
it.
deep.
I think it is. Sorry if I'm bragging, but I think there is, and it was, I didn't actually put much thought into it. But at the time when it was happening, really, I thought of how best was I going to communicate to the reader to understand in basic terms what I was trying to put across. You would realize there's a word I wrote in Chinese. I'm sure maybe some people didn't pay attention, and that's the little details that I was talking about. When you use Google Translate, it will give you what exactly I was trying to communicate in that coat of arm ribbon. There is the visually, of course, you get the message, and I'm glad you get it. But in there is for maybe the person who doesn't know, person who doesn't know about the politics of this country or of Africa and whatever. Scan that image, scan that writing, and they will surely get what I was trying to communicate.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. What a way. I celebrate you.
Thank
I honor you, Chris Ogon.
Thank you.
I appreciate you for sharing your life and art with us, with all of us in Uganda. We appreciate the work that you do. We really want to cheer you on. Thank you so much for
I'm glad. I
sharing
really am.
journalism with us.
I'm really glad that you, in particular, appreciate what I do. And I can't thank you enough for this opportunity to speak to your audience.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Chris Ogon's latest book, Ogon Drawing Attention, will be live in bookstores across the country on 2nd August. You can grab yourself a copy, or you can as well go to the Daily Monitor. There will be copies there to pick. I would encourage you strongly to get this book because it's one that really has a lot. I mean, it's buttressed in history. It has current affairs. It talks about foreign affairs. It talks about human rights. Talks about politics, everything. So let's just go and support Chris Ogon by purchasing this book and as well by sharing his work out. So yeah, let's just go out there and get a copy. Chris, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you, Solomon. Thanks for hosting me.
All right, thanks. All right, I'm Solomon Serwanya. Thanks for watching. This is The Hard Questions.